welcome to another Money Max Monday video. Today we're going to be finishing our series about how to spend less without enjoying less, today thinking about how we communicate. Now, this is a relatively new phenomenon. You don't have to go back very many years and people just wouldn't give it any thought at all. If you go back, say, 25 years, mobile phones were the size of shoe boxes. If you had a phone in the house, it was plugged into the wall and the internet was something crazy and dangerous and unknown. Those people who did have the internet had to wait literally minutes for one page to load, and this was a very familiar sound. Oh, it's not pleasant at all. It's not pleasant at all. In my house growing up, there were 5 channels on the television, whereas today there are hundreds. It's a different world that we live in now. While in 1996, some 16% of households had one mobile phone in them or more, by 2016 this was 95% of households had a mobile phone in it. And a similar number of households have access to the internet, and so the market is saturated. There are many providers looking for our business, and we can use their keenness in order to get the very best deals. So today we'll be looking at how to save money on our mobile phones, our internet and our TV packages. So, mobile phones. I record all these videos on my mobile phone, and some phones are incredibly powerful. Like clothes, cars and fashion, mobile phones can be as expensive as you want them to be. Many people use a phone as a fashion accessory and will upgrade it as often as possible as the technology becomes more advanced. If this is something that people choose to do, that's absolutely fine, but we have to be aware that there is a cost that comes with this. For example, Apple's latest offering, the iPhone X, can cost you a whopping £117 a month. If this amount seems reasonable for a mobile phone, then by all means go ahead and buy it. But if that seems like too much, then we might need to have a look at exactly what we use our phones for and why. So if we use our phones as a tool rather than treating it as a jewel, then we are in a good position to be able to cut some costs by assessing exactly what we use it for. If you own a phone outright, like you bought it for the full price in the shop, or you had a phone for the duration of a contract but that contract has come to an end, then you are in a very strong position in order to barter and bargain for the best deals. You could dramatically slash your costs by opting for a SIM-only deal, which is available from most providers. Using a price comparison site, you can see exactly what the best deal on offer is, and the good thing about SIM-only deals is the contract lives are often very short, maybe 1 month. But in order to know what the best deal is, we have to find out exactly what our usage is for our mobile phones. We have texts, we have minutes, and we have data, and we need to know honestly how much of these we use in order to find out what the best deal is. So if we look at our bills or usage statistics on our phone, it'll tell us how many minutes, texts, and megabytes of data we use in any given month. This is where we need to be really honest with ourselves. Just because our contract gives us 2 gigabytes of data to use, it doesn't mean that we need to have that amount. If we're only using 1 gigabyte of data, then it's throwing money away in order to be paying for 2. Equally, if we have 1,000 minutes of phone calls to use and we only use 100, then we are paying way over the odds. Keep in mind, mobile phone companies are very happy to provide us with additional minutes, texts and megabytes of data than we need because they can charge us for those, and they do charge us even if we don't use them. We need to honestly appraise exactly what we use and then find a deal that fits that amount. There are of course ways in which we can cut our usage of minutes, data and texts. One way to cut phone call minutes is to use a free service like Skype, which you would obviously need a Wi-Fi connection for, but if you're connected to the Wi-Fi and the person that you're speaking to is connected to the Wi-Fi, then you won't have to use any minutes at all because Skype is a free service. Equally, there are messenger services which can replace text messages, and if we are in a Wi-Fi area, we can use that connection instead of our mobile data. As we mentioned before on this channel, it's a good idea to turn your mobile data off when you're not currently using it. Many apps will run in the background and can use data without us knowing it. And if we're very close to the threshold of using all of our available data, you don't want to be pushed over the top by an app updating or doing some sort of transaction that you aren't aware of, and that could cost you some money. So once we've figured out exactly how much we're using and therefore how much we need in our deal, it's time to start comparing. Now there are many comparison sites, far too many to name here, but I've put a few links to some in the description, such as mobiles.co.uk, uswitch.com and moneysupermarket.com. these are a good place to start. The way to go about finding the very best deal is to spend an hour or so looking at different websites that provide different deals and then writing down the very best one. Keep in mind that the price of the handset may not be included in the monthly price, and so that might be an additional cost on top of it. Also, bear in mind that some sites will give you cashback for switching using their website, and so you should factor that into the cost as well. However, don't choose a deal based on cashback, because cashback can be very unpredictable and not everybody always gets the money that they expect to get through cashback sites. So, once we've found the best deal that offers us the correct number of minutes and text and data, and we've factored in the handset cost, we should get our calculator out and see exactly how much we'll be paying on average each month for the lifetime of the contract. Now, once you've found a handset and a contract that is good for you, put it through the Money Max test. Ask yourself this question: is the product worth the total cost? If so, then you're ready to go and switch. But if not, keep on looking. Now, many of these same principles apply to our home internet connection as well. Very few companies still offer dial-up internet, although some might do for remote areas where there's no broadband connection. But most companies offer broadband deals. But this is the point where we have to ask ourselves, what speed do we really need from our broadband? This will be determined by how many people are going to be using the broadband connection at any one time. If you have several people at home using the internet at the same time for activities that require a high bandwidth, like watching videos or playing games, then you might need to explore what has become known as super fast broadband. This tends to fall in the categories of anywhere above 50 megabytes per second, but some companies are offering up to 200 megabytes per second, which is startlingly fast broadband speeds, but the price reflects that. We could use similar websites that we've already mentioned, like uswitch.com or moneysupermarket.com, in order to compare broadband deals. Keep in mind that some suppliers will want to charge you for line rental as well, and so we need to factor this into the overall monthly cost. Once you've found some deals, again, put it through the Money Max test. Ask yourself this question: is the product worth the total cost? If yes, then you're good to switch. If not, keep on looking. Finally, let's talk about television packages. When I was growing up, there were 5 channels on the television, but now there are hundreds, and there are dozens of different providers of television packages. So we need to ask ourselves, are we getting what we're paying for? This is again an opportunity to be really honest with ourselves. How many of the TV channels that we pay for do we actually watch? Do we pay for sports or movie channels which never get a look in? Do we find ourselves always watching things on catch-up and never watch them as they're being broadcast? If the answer is yes to any of these things, or all of these things, it might be a good time to cut back and cut out. You can use many of the comparison sites that we've already mentioned to compare and contrast deals and switch providers as well. The idea of all this is to pay for what you actually use. If you only watch 10 different channels, it doesn't make sense to pay to have 800 channels coming into your home. Remember that if you watch TV as it is being broadcast, or you use BBC iPlayer at all, you are legally required to have a TV license, which costs about £150 a year. If, however, you never watch TV as it's being broadcast, and you never use BBC iPlayer, you may not require a TV license. The TV licensing website can tell you for definite if you do or don't need a license, and there's a link to that website in the description, but if you don't require a license, it doesn't make sense to pay for one. 2 final pieces of advice that I found very useful over the years. Once you've compared all the deals on the market, let's say for mobile phones, and you ring your current provider and say that you found a much better deal and you will be leaving, your current provider will do everything in their power in order to keep you. Remember that only 5% of people in the UK don't have a mobile phone, so they can't be touting for new business. They are looking to keep existing customers. So they might well offer you a better deal than you found. And if it is genuinely better, go with a better deal. Don't be afraid to change your mind. However, if they can't offer you a better deal, they might try and give you 15 reasons why you should stay with them anyway, about the superiority of their network, or about how they've been rated very highly in the past, and so on. If those arguments are useful to you and mean something to you, then by all means stay with them. But if they sound as if they're just trying to convince you to stay even though you know you found a better deal, don't be afraid to say, I'm sorry, I'm going to go where the better deal is, and switch providers. Secondly, changing providers for mobile phones and broadband and television and also things like gas and electricity providers should be done quite regularly. Just because we're on the best deal right now, it doesn't mean that the deal we have will be the best deal in a year's time. So we need to always keep an eye on the market, always keep an eye on our usage, and always keep an eye on the deals that are available. Now, many contracts that we take out will have an exit fee if we wish to leave early, so we have to factor that in if we're getting a slightly better deal. It doesn't make sense to pay a £70 exit fee in order to save £2 a month, unless you're going to stay with them for more than 35 months. But we have to keep a weather eye on the horizon to see whether or not the deal we're on is the best deal, and if it's not, it's time to switch. That's it for today, and indeed that's it for our series about how to spend less without enjoying less. Don't worry though, we'll be starting a new series after Christmas, and next week we'll be talking about budgeting troubleshooting for how to make the most out of our budgets. Thank you very much for watching. Please, as always, leave any comments, questions or video requests in the comment section below. Have a very good week, and I'll see you next Monday.